Lehman Brothers bankruptcy in 2008, and I happened to have had a front row seat to the entire event. It was already a troubled year for many companies: scandals, investigations, tears, lost retirement funds, Bernie Madoff, AIG, Fannie Mae, mortgages, Vegas-type speculation, Miami condos. Hard to imagine that it was 12 years ago. In some ways, it seems fairly recent, but it can also feel like it took place a long, long time ago. At another point in my career, it was the doubling of the size of our company through an acquisition, and people were naturally worried about redundancies. What would this mean for their job? Lack of clarity meant that the narrative around the water cooler would take the form of the communication, although misguided, that people were starving for. In another situation, it was our CEO stepping down due to questionable financial transactions she undertook. And it happened suddenly, with the board of the company and its directors acting quickly, but the sudden disappearance meant that many people were left in the lurch, wondering what this meant for the prospects of the company. Folks, change is never easy, but change is always going to happen. Bet on change. And if you're left to pick up the pieces, today I want to reflect on these past three experiences and perhaps shed some light on how to best prepare the folks that need to right the ship after the dust has settled. Number one, when your professional environment is about to or is undergoing some radical change, like a bankruptcy, a CEO stepping down, whatever the case, over-communicate. If you think you're over-communicating, communicate some more. If you think you're over-communicating, communicate even more. Every time I've witnessed major transformational change at companies, in any professional environment, these words often get ignored. Why is it that when companies go through tremendous change, people feel like they're the last to know? It seems like this advice is often forgotten in this environment. You may be waiting to formulate a plan, but in the absence of communication, rumor and speculation will certainly dominate. For example, when we acquired another company, we all of a sudden had some employees resign. They left the company simply because they felt that their jobs would be eliminated and they wanted to be proactive as opposed to reactive. These employees decided to take action into their own hands because they weren't getting the communication they needed, and we lost some valuable talent as a result. Number two, don't make promises that you cannot keep. At the beginning of the pandemic, a CEO boldly announced, as many others did, that the company had enough funds and wasn't in a position to have to lay off anybody. 4 weeks later, a third of the staff was laid off. And I saw this happen time and time again. If you're the CEO or working with the CEO, avoid making promises like this that can be hard to keep. In situations where environments are changing quickly, you may not have a full grasp to the full extent of the possible change. And if you have to break promises later, it can be very damaging to your credibility as a leader. Number three, make sure that you over-communicate across all levels as equally as possible. Many times, it's just the senior leadership that gets clued into change. It's part of the war room sessions. But the communication has to happen at all levels. Junior people, particularly those who haven't lived through a change like the one your company may be going through, are particularly at risk, and they are critical to the organization. In order to get their buy-in, you'll want to make sure that they're just as up to speed on the changes as are the senior leaders. Imagine that you join a company to work for someone that you felt was going to be a great mentor, a coach, someone you really aspire to work for, only to learn that they resigned 2 days after they started. I remember this happened to me at the beginning of my career. I didn't know how to make sense of it. Had someone taken the time to explain what was going on, who my new boss would be, etc., while I may not have liked the answer, it would have given me a sense of direction. Don't forget the folks that are the lowest on the totem pole. They are critical too. What I've seen happen when change is imminent is communication breaks down and all hell breaks loose. It doesn't have to be this way. Over communicate, don't make promises you can't keep, and make sure to communicate across all levels. This is true in professional and personal environments. You cannot prevent change from happening, but you can shape the way that you handle the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.